New Orleans Saints, Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler, ball out. Trevor Penning struggles. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ross Jackson on Locked On Saints podcast. Let's go ahead and get into this, react like only we can do.
Still no distance in the quarterback two battle, but a big day and a lot of fire.
Ross has himself positioned where a vending machine would go out in the middle of some concourse. Respect. You got to respect the hustle. He's getting it in where he can. Man says, you know what? I got to do a podcast. Let me pull up in this gravel parking lot next to a machine that sells Mike Ike's. And let me go ahead and post up here next to this door. I hope no one uses the bathroom and opens this door in the middle of this podcast.
Works from both Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. We got all of that and a little bit of lanyard for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
All right. Hot graphic. Let's go. Let's get in here. We'll skip
you are
the ads.
Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast.
Man,
part
lady
of
was
the
screaming
Locked
at me.
On
Okay.
Podcast Network. Your
I
team
just got chills.
every day.
Every day. God, no.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credential member of the media covering.
Okay, again, Ross, we got to ease up on your New Orleans Saints expert, your NFL expert. Brother, you're looking at the expert. Maybe one of the experts, I'll give you that. One of, sure, but come on.
Those New Orleans Saints is a Saints beat writer over at the upcoming LouisianaSports.net and, of course, Saints analyst over at WWL TV. We appreciate you very much for being here for another live episode of Locked On Saints, recapping day 13 of New Orleans Saints practice.
Right.
We're going to dive into Pete Werner's extension a little bit, getting a 3-year deal. What does that mean for the New Orleans Saints? We'll start to break it down, but we'll really break it down a little bit more heavily in tomorrow's episode. Today, we're going to focus a little bit more on what happened at day 13 of practice. Trevor Penning struggles. Are the New Orleans Saints going to be okay at right tackle? And we'll be taking a look at Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler, who put on the show with the help of a couple of rising wide receivers over the course of training camp so far. We got all that and more coming up for you on today's show. We appreciate you very much for being here, making us your first listen of the day every day, and for being an everydayer here on the show, which is a part of the Locked On podcast.
Okay, we're going to skip ahead to the actual topics.
But for me, today was all about Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. And really, in particular, Jake Haener was the one that shined for me today, although I still wouldn't say that there's really any distance in this quarterback battle until we get to see.
Word on the street is that, obviously, but Haener and Rattler are taking turns just looking phenomenal, which is exactly what we want to hear. And no, there's no chance either of them play this year, but it's good that we have young quarterbacks actually developing. Ladies and gentlemen, does anybody in the chat want to raise their hand on what possibly could have been the issue with why we couldn't get any quarterbacks to develop in the last couple of years? Does anybody know possibly why now? Why right now in this training camp we start to see some development out of our young quarterbacks? Anybody want to throw a guess out there of maybe what the issue could have been? I'll give you the answer. Pete Carmichael. The answer was that our assistants and offensive staff were absolute clowns. They were riding around on unicycles and juggling. They were clowns. Now we've got Andrew Janocko. Now we have Clint Kubiak. Now we have legitimate offensive assistants, legitimate offensive staff who are actually teaching, who are actually developing. There's actually something tangible there for Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler to grab a hold of. I feel bad for Ian Book. I feel bad for Jameis Winston to an extent. I feel bad for all these players who got drafted by the Saints or signed by the Saints or whatever and walked into Pete Carmichael blowing bubblegum bubbles, and that's it. It is not surprising that now we're seeing this insane development over the last 2 weeks of our young quarterbacks.
See those preseason games. We had a couple of rehuddles early for Spencer Rattler, who was just dealing with some stuff. And in fact, actually at one point, Clint Kubiak, New Orleans Saints offensive coordinator, took credit for one of those rehuddles. He said, hey, this is on me. That's on me. Don't worry about it. Got the offense ready to go, all that other stuff. But beyond that, really, really good day for both of these quarterbacks. I want to start off with Jake Haener, who put on a show going 5 of 5 in his 1 minute and 40-second end of game simulation. The team was down 23-28 in this situation. and he connected on 5 straight passes, moving the team down to a touchdown, and ended up hitting a 2-point conversion on a pass as well. Completed first one pass over to Michael Jacobson, the big tight end, number 86, on a nice screen pass. Yes, the tight end screen is back. If anybody misses the Josh Hill days when it came to those, but picked up a lot of yards after the catch on that one. Then another connection to Michael Jacobson over the middle, another connection this time to Kevin Rader over the middle, so a lot of tight end work here. Then he found Marquez Callaway over on the left sideline, who drew coverage from Rajon Wright. And then the big play. Takes the snap, drops back, gets some pressure over from his left side.
I don't really care about individual plays in training camp. You know, I don't care about the training camp box scores or anything like that. But it is like, think about the standard. Think about the standard that's being set in the New Orleans Saints offense, where if you have your second string and third string receiver or quarterbacks playing this well, imagine what that does for your starters. Imagine how it gets Derek Carr into a rhythm, how it gets Derek Carr fired up, how it gets Derek Carr moving, and how it gets Derek Carr kind of operating. Think about if those tight ends and the Marquez Callaways and whoever, if they're scoring, think about what that does for the other receivers. Think about what that does for the defense to see Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener driving the ball down your throat, and the defense all of a sudden turns around and says, we're going to have to do better next time. That standard is what the Saints have been missing. That standard is what the Saints need. And it sounds like that's happening.
From Jack Heflin, who had a really nice practice today as well, ends up getting flushed out to his right. So he's going to the direction of his dominant hand, gets over to the right side, and just lets one loose down the field. The snap was taken at the 27-yard line, so just outside the red zone. He probably threw this pass from around, like, just beyond the 30 or so. He ends up finding in the end zone Samson Nacua, who just continues to make plays. This dude just goes up, grabs a big catch over, this one was Shamar Jean-Charles, on a big jump ball, big contested catch, lands in the end zone, touchdown. Then they go back to the line because they're going to go for 2, right? In this simulation, they were down 23-28. So they got their 3 points to go up 29. Now they want to extend to make it a field goal difference and take the lead by a field goal. So then they go out and under center again. Jake Haener steps back, ends up finding Kevin Rader over the middle on the crosser. And when I tell you that Jake Haener was excited, when I tell you that Jake Haener was stoked with his performance, he came off of that field yelling and screaming and happy and cheering and basically saying, like, he didn't actually say these words, but what it felt like was, put some respect on my name. Really, really great performance there.
Good.
From Jake Haener, who went 5 of 5, 6 of 6, if you include the 2-point conversion, to get what would have been a simulated win in this situation. He also had some nice throws at earlier points in the day as well. Looked really comfortable. This, I think, was the second straight day where Jake Haener looked really comfortable. Remember, he missed Monday getting that procedure to take care as a part of the treatment for his skin cancer that he was diagnosed with at the beginning of the offseason. And then he came back on a strong day yesterday, and he came back and followed that up with a much stronger day today with the help of Samson Nacua and the tight ends. Really, really good stuff from Jake Haener there. Let's go to Spencer Rattler's day. Spencer Rattler's day started a little bit earlier, in my opinion. Spencer Rattler ended up having a couple of rehuddles at one point early on. So he really needed to kind of like get everything under control.
Okay. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. I don't really, like I said, I don't care about the play by play. Like that part doesn't matter. So let's see if Ross does that again. If he's doing that again, then I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Is that they'll get the opportunity to go out there on Saturday up against the Arizona Cardinals and show what they could do under the lights, full speed, all of that. But both of them, really, really good stuff to lead their way into this. All right, coming up next, I want to update you on Justin Simmons, and I want to discuss Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning.
That was flying. That was crazy. That was insane. Okay, it just happened. All right. Okay, let me try and give you all some context or whatever. The Jake Haener, Spencer Rattler thing is exactly what we want it to be doing. We want them both to be competing. We want them both to be fired up. We want them both developing for the future. We're not interested in, are they going to play this year, right? We want to see how they look in preseason. Want to hear how they look in training camp, all of that. The fact that they go 5 for 5 on a drive doesn't matter as much. What matters is that they're getting better. What matters is that they're getting comfortable. Okay? That's perfect. The Saints, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the Saints are in the absolute dream scenario for 2 young quarterbacks where they do not have the pressure to play immediately like Bo Nix, like Drake May. They don't have the pressure of the franchise on them. Conversely, word of the day, Derek Carr doesn't have the pressure of a quarterback, lurking right behind him, a la Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has the pressure of if Kirk Cousins struggles, they may move to Michael Penix, right? That's not a very healthy locker room situation either. So it's good to see that this is working because it was the perfect storm to work, or it is the perfect storm to work, but sometimes the players just aren't good enough to do it. So it's good to hear that Haener and Rattler are good enough right now to do it. I don't think you can just throw away the fact that this offense is developing these quarterbacks. You can't develop someone if there's nothing to develop, right? There's no system. There's no one. A player's not just going to develop on their own, right? They need a system to grab hold of. They need a scheme. They need coaching. So it's also good to see that Janoko and Kubiak are doing that as well.
Had a really
skip ahead of these ads.
24 hours today's camp.
Let's see what we got in this.
Damn! We got ads. I mean, this is out of control. We got ads left and right on here. We got Meta in my face. I've got bots in the chat. I'm under like technological warfare over here. And now, what do I got now? Sally Mae? I mean, I'm under an absolute attack. I feel like I'm facing off with the Lizard Squad right now, or Anonymous or whatever.
We also saw a pressure from Nathan Shepard. Then when we get to our next time off the ground, tons of kind of miscommunications on the offensive side. We saw, YouTube. All right, so first, a quick update on. It's so funny. Elias just asked, is the quarterback battle getting exciting yet? It finally got exciting today. That's what we were just breaking down was Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener doing some really good stuff today. But we didn't get to see a lot of good stuff here from Derek Carr today. And the reason why is not because of Derek Carr. It was because of the offensive line. And so while the backup quarterback battle has gotten exciting, the starting unit for the New Orleans Saints on offense really couldn't get anything off the ground. Tons of kind of miscommunications on the.
Make no mistake. I've been saying for weeks, this team's going to be good. This offense is going to be good. This offense is this. Clint Kubiak is this. Unless Clint Kubiak puts on some knee pads and elbow pads and a chin strap and gets a right tackle, that's not going to matter. Because if this offensive line can't be below average, if they can't be the 20th, 21st ranked offensive line, it ain't going to matter. The only thing we can't have is this offensive line be rock bottom. The offensive line cannot be the worst in the NFL. It cannot be a bottom 5 offensive line and this team succeed. If they are average to below average, that is perfectly good enough to win games. If you told me the offensive line was going to be the 21st ranked offensive line in the NFL, I would say sign my name on there. I'll take that in a heartbeat. 21st, all good. That's all we need. We're talking about Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons is good, sure, but at a certain point, we may have to go figure out this offensive line. We may have to say, all right, look, Penning's not going to work. We got to go sign some right tackle. We got to go do something. We have to go find some players. I would rather go find 3 free agents who can play right tackle, left guard, and someone that can move around. I'd rather that get some depth on the offensive line than Simmons, even though Simmons is a much bigger name and much more exciting. We got to be average, ladies and gentlemen. The reports coming out about Penning, not good.
On the offensive side, we saw, pressure by 90 and 96. So that's Carl Granderson and Brian Brzee on the first play that led to a throwaway. Then 2 plays later, we saw a sack by what would have been a sack by Brian Brzee. So good to see Brian Brzee. He got off with a big time start at the beginning of today's camp.
That part is true. You do have to kind of say that. What is bad for the offensive line is good for the defensive line. So it is good to hear Carl Granderson, Brian Brzee, Chase Young. It is good to hear those players are popping off.
And then we also saw a pressure from Nathan Shepard. Then when we get to our next time where Derek Carr was under center, there's an interception from Jordan Howden because the ball got tipped at the line by Chase Young, I believe. I'm pretty sure it was Chase Young that tipped it. It got tipped at the line, so the ball popped up, and then Jordan Howden makes a sliding interception there. Not on Derek Carr. That's just Chase Young was right in his face as he tried to throw the football. Then we saw more pressure from Chase Young. We saw a throwaway that got led to in the next drive. And then finally at the end of the drive, and this is where Trevor Penning's day got particularly challenging. At an earlier point in practice, him, Nathan Shepard, Willie Gay, and I've heard a little bit about Jamal Williams kind of being involved. It was a Jamal Williams run, so he was over on the left side, so I'm really not sure that he was a part of it. But those three guys, Trevor Penning, Nathan Shepard, Willie Gay, all kind of get to mixing it up. So it's a big kind of almost like a brawl in a way, not really a brawl, but just these guys kind of going back and forth. And then Trevor Penning and Nathan Shepard start really going at one another. Trevor Penning's helmet comes off. Everybody jumps in to try to split everything up. And really, like, credit Taliesin Fuanga, it's the rookie offensive lineman that came in, grabbed Trevor Penning and pulled him away. So he was like the cooler head that prevailed in this whole situation. And that kind of ceased the whole situation. Something happened to Trevor Penning's helmet or guardian cap, one of the two. He then had to go over to the sideline and wait for his guardian cap to be put back on. Then he went out for some third team drills. And when he went out for some third team drills, he got a little bit more kind of like reacclimated and all that kind of stuff. But then when he got back to first team drills, and this was a situation where the Saints were operating at a 0-7 deficit, starting with the ball on their own 45-yard line with 48 seconds left. So you're trying to drive 55 yards for a touchdown there. Here's the way that these plays go, all right? A completion for 13 yards from Derek Carr to Cedric Wilson, who, again, looked good today. Then they got up to the line. They spiked the ball. 30 seconds left. They're on their own 33-yard line. I'm going to read you exactly what my notes are. Derek Carr sacked by Chase Young, ate Trevor Penning's lunch. 75 had a nice rep. My second one, Derek Carr sacked by Chase Young, ate Trevor Penning's lunch. My third note, Derek Carr sacked by Chase Young, ate Trevor Penning's lunch. 3 plays.
Let me tell you this. If that happened in a real game, if we're down 7 or whatever the situation was, we're on a 2-minute drill. We have 40 seconds left. We spike the ball after a completion. And we go Trevor Penning sack, Trevor Penning sack, Trevor Penning sack. I'm not sure. My blood pressure would be through the roof. If it's this bad, get his ass off the line. Be done with it. I'm with y'all in chat who are saying, like, find somebody that can do the job. 100%. 100%. Why in the hell are we moving the heavens and the earth? Why are we moving the heavens and the earth to get Trevor Penning on the starting offensive line? This has now been over 2 years of where it's nothing but negativity coming out of reports from this guy. Whether it's he's giving up sacks, whether it's he's getting into fights. I mean, how many fights is he getting into? This is like the fifth or sixth time that he's been in a fight. Like, damn, all he does is give up sacks and get in fights. So get his ass off there. Send him into the second string or third string and let him hang out in there. We got to find someone who can do it. Go throw darts at free agency, get 4 or 5 free agents on veteran minimums, bring them in, and just have somebody that can be average. Like, we don't need an all-pro. We don't need the best tackle in the game. We just need a offensive line that is top 20. Not even. An offensive line that's like top 20, 24 or somewhere in there. Okay? Somewhere in that neighborhood. That's what we need. So it's crazy that we're still dealing with this Trevor Penning thing. It really is. I mean, like, guys, what did we hear all last year? All last year. Penning's terrible. Penning can't do this. The offensive line. Then they finally bench him. What did we hear in the offseason last year? Negative Penning reports. Like, I mean, I am tired of hearing about these problems. He either has to get better really damn fast, or my boy Mickey has to figure something else out
in a row. Now, some have said that it wasn't, that in one of those plays, it was actually Carl Granderson on a stunt that got to Chase Young. Totally fine if that's the case. Chase Young still won the rep 3 times in a row. Trevor Penning kind of like held him around his neck at one point with what would have been a holding call, all those other things.
God.
So just not a good day for Trevor Penning. I want to be clear here. I want to be very, very clear here. One not so good day or one really bad day. Like I thought this was an awful day for Trevor. And not that he is awful, but that this was an awful day for him, a bad performance, or a really good performance by Chase Young. But in either case, not what Trevor Penning needed to put on tape.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
The way that I look at it is that one practice is not indicative of Trevor Penning, right?
My brother in Christ, one practice, it's been 2 years. We saw the same thing at the beginning of last season. We saw the same thing at the beginning of the offseason last year. We saw the same thing in the year before. Like, what do you mean one practice? It's every practice.
Trevor Penning has made some really nice strides. Dennis Allen gave him a lot of credit after practice today, made some really nice.
Yeah, not to mention that Chase Young has a surgically repaired neck, and Trevor Penning has him in the sleeper hold. Trevor Penning has him in the Master Lock Challenge in the middle of training camp.
Strides in the run game in particular. But even Dennis Allen said, I'm not ready to commit to him being effectively, this is paraphrasing, but effectively said, I'm not willing to commit to Trevor Penning being the starting right tackle for the team.
Thank God, Dennis.
And I don't know how you could be in terms of what we have seen so far. It's been some ups and downs and ups and downs. And so it's just been a lot of back and forth. And meanwhile, we've seen, Taliesin Fuanga string together really, really nice days at left tackle and certainly lose some reps.
And I think we're also about to say this, and that's the difference. You can lose reps. Offensive line is hard. Same as like being a defensive back. You're going to lose reps. What you cannot have is complete disaster days like he just had. Back to back to back sacks with a fight, with a holding call, with a whatever. Can't have that. That's what we saw in the games last year, where he wouldn't just give up one sack. It would be holding call, then a sack, then a holding call, then a sack, then this, then that. And it's like, you got to get him out of there. He is tanking the offense. You can have, even the best offensive linemen in the world, they get beat on reps. It's going to happen. But they can string together quarters of good reps. We haven't seen that yet from Trevor Penning. So thank God Dennis Allen said, hey, I'm not committing to that. Now, if you're not committing to that, you better have a backup plan, no pun intended. So I'm interested to see what that backup plan is.
But never anything as egregious as what we saw. So the tricky part in this particular Trevor Penning situation is how much was he in his head because of the fight? How much was he in his head because maybe he got talked to about the fight?
Who cares?
Right? And so how much did that kind of sink
Who cares?
where he was? And can he rebound from that? Because I think you have to give Trevor Penning a opportunity to play in Arizona.
Brother, an opportunity. He has had an opportunity to play for 3 years. We have given him more than enough of an opportunity. Yeah, I'm with you. Let him play against the Cardinals. Let him play in preseason. And if he fails in those tests too, get him up out of here.
And I understand the question. Couldn't you just say that Chase Young is developing great? Sure. If he was making plays like what we saw 3 reps in a row against every other offensive tackle that he goes up against, but he's not. Like there's a common denominator here and everything. And so I think it was just a rough day for Trevor Penning. And he's got to get out of that mentality. I think the fight really threw him off and kind of knocked him off of his groove. If he can get his mentality right before Saturday's game, he's got to get some opportunity.
If a student driver was driving their course and they messed up and drove through the front of my living room, and then they said, well, yes, did I drive my car into your living room? Yes, but I did just have a big fight with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, and so my head wasn't really in the game. I wouldn't be like, oh, well, yeah, that's totally understandable. Go ahead and pass this student driver. I would say, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't be driving. Like maybe you probably shouldn't pass your student driver test if you drove your vehicle through my living room. It doesn't matter if you had a fight with whoever. That's kind of, it's not really an excuse. I'm sitting here trying to watch TV, and now I have a Ford Focus in the dining room. So I don't like it's training camp. Everyone's fighting, everyone's hot, everyone's tired, it's not an excuse that Trevor got into a fight, started a fight on his own, and then is like, oh well, yeah, I gave up 3 sacks, but I just had that fight, so I was kind of fired up. Everyone's fired up, all of them. You don't think Jamal Williams and Nathan Shepard and all those guys that were involved in the fight were fired up? Like that's a horrific argument.
Opportunities to play on Saturday in the preseason game. I know he's expected to be a starter. Put him out there, man. Like, let him go out there and kind of build some confidence.
I agree with that.
Because we haven't seen enough from Trevor Penning here. At least I've
seen plenty.
Seen enough from Trevor Penning here in practice to say he has earned the starting right tackle spot. I've seen a lot of good things from him, but I've seen a lot of not so great things come off of his side. And so seeing all of that, I thought that he was getting stronger and stronger over the course of this week, but he just kind of tanked today. And again, I think it had
no. If he bounces back, training camp is training camp. So if he bounces back, okay, good. Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before you figure it all out. So maybe that's the case. But if he doesn't bounce back and he doesn't show any signs of getting better, if he continues to tank, get him out of there.
More to do with the fight than anything else. I think he got in his head. I genuinely think he got in his head, and he's got to be able to combat that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing on Saturday what he's able to put up, what he's able to do, all that other stuff. Like that's the thing that I'm really, really excited to see. So we'll see. I think that he deserves this opportunity. I have been one of the most pro Trevor Penning people since they made the odd decision to bench him way too early last year and never turned to him again.
I mean, he should have been benched. He was actively tanking the offense.
But today's practice was one of those ones where you went, oh gosh, like that's rough. That's really, really rough. So we'll see what he's able to do there. If I'm the Saints though, when Trevor Penning doesn't pan out, it's not like I have options out there to go and like grab a tackle to come in and take his spot. You got to go to somebody here.
Go get him. I mean, right now is the time. Right now, the writing is on the wall. Right now, it's like, okay, this looks like it might not work out. If it doesn't work out, what is our backup plan? You got to go now and find that backup plan. You have to go bring in veterans. Bring in whoever. If it's David Bakhtiari, whoever. Like, go get who the hell ever. Bring them in and let them compete. Even if you don't want to sign them, it's training camp. Go bring players up. I don't care. Practice squad players, backup play. It doesn't matter to me. Get someone else out there. Let's start seeing what that backup plan looks like
within the building. Now, I feel really good about where Landon Young has been, but I love the fact that Landon Young also has the multi-positional ability to back.
Put Landon Young there. I don't care. Let Young be the starter at right tackle. If Landon Young can be average, cool.
Gut places. Like, that's really valuable. Aliudo can do a little bit of that, but I think Landon Young performs better on the interior than Aliudo does. And so can Aliudo be your starting right tackle or something like that? Like, you've got to figure this out. But hopefully Trevor Penning snaps back into it, gets back focused, especially up against this Arizona Cardinals team where he gets under the lights, he gets around the crowd. The team is out there ready to go. They're running the ball. He's building his confidence. He's not in an all-throw situation like this was, everything like those types of situations. But this was a really good example of why the scheme can only help you so much because there's no play action.
Yeah, damn. I mean, kind of, sort of, but you have to be able to play the position. This is what I've been saying the whole time. We do not have to have all pros at any position. The only thing you can't have in a system-based offense or defense, the only thing you can't have is the worst at that position. If everyone is average, the system will carry a player. Like Miami with Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert he's not like an elite running back, but he can play the position at an average level. And the system makes him good, makes him great. If Raheem Mostert is playing the position at an F- level, the system isn't going to make him great, right? Like, he wouldn't have done what he did in Miami last year. Same with the 49ers. Or take the Rams. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, they can play their position at a high level. if all those receptions that Puka Nacua had, if those turn into drops or turn into fumbles or turn into whatever else, the system can only do so much for you. You've got to at least be able to be average. Trevor Penning, and that's what I've been saying about the offensive line, where we just need the offensive line to be like that 20th, 21st offensive line in the NFL level. What we cannot have is someone like Trevor Penning who, when we have to throw the football, when it's third down, when it's a no-huddle situation, at the end of quarters, at the end of halves, whatever, what we can't have is someone who cannot pass protect. If we throw the ball 3 times in a row, like Ross said, you're not doing play action in a 2-minute drill. You're not doing play action with 30 seconds left, no timeouts. So if you can't just stand on your own and play the position at an average level, that's not going to work. I don't care what scheme it is.
On these plays, you're not running play action in a sure to throw situation. You're in the shotgun, you're dropping back, and you're trying to get the pass up. This is exactly one of those examples of why it's so important that it's not just that the scheme helps your offensive line, but that your offensive line develops. All right, let me give you a quick update on Justin Simmons here.
All right, there you go. Cut the video off there. We're going to listen to the training camp stuff there. Good stuff from Ross, per usual. Yeah, man, I'm worried. I'm not going to lie. I'm worried. I'm worried a lot about the right tackle situation. Doesn't sound good. I want to hear, I'll tell you this right now, I want to hear we're bringing people in, or I want to hear that new people are getting reps, or I want to hear that they're doing something, because right now I'm concerned about it. I tell you that.